the stars be with you.
All right, I'd love to welcome my special guest this week. We have Monika Brotherson. Thank you so much for being here, Monika.
Thank you for having me.
And Monika and I met recently. It's funny because we were both at UAC together. You know, I keep getting a lot of guests that were at UAC, which is great because that's why we all came together. But Monika came in kind of after the fact through my friend Aditi, who was on a previous podcast. And she's like, you have to meet Monika. She is amazing. You'll get together, you know, you'll love each other. It's perfect. And it's funny, Monika just happened to be in San Diego last week and we got to meet and I just loved her. So thank you for being here, Monika. And if you could give us a little bit about, you know, tell us about yourself. What do you do?
Well, firstly, thank you to Aditi for putting us together, for bringing us together. That was great. Special wave to her, because without her we wouldn't be here, and I loved meeting you in San Diego. We had such a great connection. I really enjoyed our talk. I'm sure that if I didn't have to go, we would probably be talking for another 2-3 hours.
Yes.
So a little bit about myself. I am originally from Poland, but I moved to UK, to London, UK, after my university, after I graduated, and I've been living there for the past 13 years, working and studying and enjoying my life. I came to astrology few years ago. It's always been there. It's always been interest of mine. But never actually considering seriously until I started studying with MISPA, which is Mercury International School, Internet School of Psychological Astrology, run by John Green. And I graduated from that school a couple years ago, and that's how my astrological adventure began, I guess.
Yes. And that has to start somewhere, right? And how wonderful that you were able to find, a program to help get you there. And that's some things that people might not understand about astrologers, that there's many ways to get there. A lot of people are self-studied. A lot of people go through certain courses or courses that are then endowed by the bigger organizations and, you know, certifications and all that. So it's not just, you know, you wake up one morning and you're like, I'll be an astrologer. There's a lot of work that goes behind it. Right, Monika?
It really does. Everyone has a really unique story. I've heard the stories of an astrologer who literally walked into a bookstore and the book fell on his head and it was an astrological book, and that's how his adventure started. I've heard people who came to astrology through psychology. They got interested in archetypes, and that's how they kind of got into the planetary archetypes and into astrology. So there's so many ways, and like you say, these days when we're so connected, when we have internet, when we have resources at our disposal, there's so many ways of studying. You have a whole library at your fingertips. You know, you can order any books. You don't have to travel for miles to find a teacher as they used to in ancient days. You can just order one on Amazon. You can join so many online classes. There is so many amazing resources on YouTube. So many interesting webinars and forecasts that you can learn from. You have great schools as well. Some of them are actually physical schools. There's a summer school run by London Astrological Association, which happens in Oxford. I have not attended, but I've heard really good things about it.
I have a friend that did that recently.
Yeah.
The summer school in Oxford.
And what was the...
Well, it was a funny one because it's funny how we're talking right now in Mercury retrograde. And so if you hear any latency issues with us, you know, because Monika is all the way across, you know, we're halfway across the world from each other. So some of that's in there. But they went last summer, and I want to say it was a retrograde then. And I think that's around the time that we were having the eclipse as well, because I think that's when the retrograde season came in, and he had it all like worked out in his mind. Like Robert Hand was supposed to have be teaching there and everything, and true Mercury retrograde fashion, things kind of fell apart a little bit. And so it wasn't quite the experience that he thought it was, but it was just kind of conditional in that moment. But he loved it at the end. It wasn't what he expected, but he said like meeting everyone there and then and just connecting as a group was an amazing experience. So yeah.
We do say actually that Urania is our muse, right? The muse of our of astrology, of our discipline. And it's interesting that a lot of people have the same story, that it's not what they planned or it's not what they wanted. It's even Mercury retrograde on side is that unexpected, unexpected that Uranus brings. And a lot of people who got into the astrology, they never wanted to. They never thought that they will be astrologer. That's not something that they planned, or they woke up one day and decided, I'll be astrologer. They basically followed their calling, and then unexpected happened.
Oh my gosh. And that is such a perfect segue into what we're going to be talking about here today, in the topic at hand, which I titled Rising to Meet the Road, which I thought was funny because, we have the old poem where it's like, let the road rise to meet you, right? Well, I feel like now in this particular period of time, we actually have to rise ourselves in order to meet the road ahead. And unexpected things can happen along the way that cause us to have to embrace this vibration that's basically trying to rise up within us right now. So how perfect that you bring up, kind of Uranian principles. So, I mean, how are you feeling overall, Monika, with your chart's kind of in the eclipses a little bit. I won't go into too much detail, but, what have you been experiencing?
It's very much into eclipses. I mean, it's triggering the T-square in my chart between Mercury squaring my moon and my Pluto-Saturn conjunction. So Mars, South Node, and an eclipse, and a moon is sitting right on top of that. So I can feel that.
Yes.
Let me put it this way: I can feel that old wounds opening, a lot of anger issues. But I was actually reflecting on that last night, because last night was incredibly powerful. And in a weird way, I was thinking about it. When you have a wound that doesn't heal, that it's really nasty underneath, and you have to go to a doctor, and that Martian scalpel has to cut through it, get everything out to clean it, cleanse it, and then you can heal. And I was thinking about that eclipse, that it's kind of like that. You have to have that kind of Martian energy. It has to be cut through. It has to release all that nastiness that it's underneath for it to heal. Otherwise, it will never heal. It will there will be this scab on top of that, but it will be just going underneath.
Yeah, festers below.
Yes, yes, very much so. So that's kind of what I was reflecting on yesterday, that going deep into that South Node and dealing with those karmic issues or past hurts has to be released.
Yes. And, just for those listening, because of course we have to record this ahead of time, right? In order for it to be ready for next week. Well, we just had that lunar eclipse last night, or day for me, but night for Monika, I think. So yeah, it's interesting. I love the way you put that analogy in there, because it's so true. Mars does represent that surgeon scalpel. It's not just how we act and motivate ourselves and focus on the, path forward, but it's also that clearing, cutting, kind of abrasive, chop like of energy that also has to come. So I love the analogy, and especially with the scab, here we have two Scorpio risings talking.
Yes.
So of course we're going to probably maybe get a little, but it's such a perfect analogy, because it's right. If it scabs over and it is not fully healed, then what's going to happen? It's going to continue. And right now we don't want that.
No. And there are different ways of healing. Sometimes you need the rest. Sometimes you need that healing balm on your wound. And sometimes you just need a quick, precise, incision and get things out. And I think with Mars sitting on that south node, this is what we need at the moment. It's not about the gentle plaster. It's not about, you know, kissing that little boo-boo. It's cut it, precise, get it out, assertiveness, you know, and decision.
Yeah. And
yeah.
Well, I was just going to say that really speaks to, because this week we have Mars, who's currently retrograde, and we're all feeling that, I'm sure, squaring Uranus in Taurus. And it's the second pass of having, and Monika and I were talking about this earlier because, you know, obviously I'm more into the mundane. If I'm talking mundane astrology is where you talk about where the planets are in the sky right now and how they're making those configurations. And Monika focuses more on like evolutionary type astrology, right? More kind of soul, you know, I'm not doing it justice, but we have two different disciplines. And so that's why I'm excited to kind of talk about, you know, what I see and then what Monika sees in this configuration. But let me set it up real quick because I think this really speaks to what you're saying with kind of, you know, making that precise, decisive action, because essentially that's what cutting is when we decide to, you know, release something, especially with the south node energies that we're talking about. But our planet Mars is forming a square with Uranus this week, and it will be the second time that this has happened. It happened back in May during our May new moon, when the two met each other in a square at the very end of Capricorn and Aries. So we're kind of doing a square dance going back and forth, but we're in kind of new energies, which are Aquarius and Taurus, which are fixed signs, something that's fixed and, you know, there. So I feel like what's kind of rising up now is now we're cutting things that are very much rooted within us, or at least that's the way I'm taking it. But what do you think about any of this? I'm open for any type of observation.
I mean, Uranus in Taurus, you have Taurus, which is the stability, you know, it's our values, and suddenly you have that energy that is very much freedom loving, you know, Promethean energy. It's all about new thoughts and releasing things. And Mars as well. Mars doesn't take easily into sitting back and not doing things. And Mars in Aquarius, yes, Aquarius can be very stubborn sign, can be very fixed sign. Before Uranus, you know, was assigned to rule that sign, we had Saturn ruling Aquarius. So Aquarius can be very, very fixed.
Yes.
And I think with both of those energies, it's, how to say this, it's a lot about releasing the karma or releasing your fixed ideas about what your values are, about what stability means to you, on any level, whether emotional level, in relationship. I've seen actually a lot of relationship fall apart, unfortunately, recently, quite a few breakups, separation, divorces, because suddenly you have that Uranus coming into Taurus and asking, what is it that I value? What is that it's of value to me, and can I be free in a place that I am? You know, Taurus, it's very much about our environment as well. And then, you know, you have that kind of energy of Promethean energy of freedom. Can I feel free in where I am? Can I express my freedom? And it doesn't have to be, you know, all about break and separation. It can be actually changing the relationship that you have with your environment, with your partner, at work, having more freedom to express yourself. But it's definitely going to be unexpected with both, I guess, Uranus and Mars and squaring to one another. There's not much space for discussion, for I don't know, I'm trying to think. I have it all.
I know the tip of the tongue. This is Mercury retrograde all over the place right now.
It is, and I'm
That's
lucky.
okay.
But yeah, it is very much. It's not about communicating gently. It's not about sitting down and trying to resolve it. It's basically going to your partner, to your boss, and saying this is what I need from the relationship, making decisive actions. And unfortunately, sometimes they might be quite drastic.
Yeah. And well, that can happen because, Uranus brings the unexpected, sudden
Yeah.
storms in our lives that we just have to get through because essentially we're trying to rise to a higher vibration within whatever is shaking us up, that foundation. And so I love what you said all about Taurus because we have to keep that in mind. I think it was maybe Austin Kopak that said, Kopak, I don't know if saying his last name right, but he was like, oh, you think, Uranus and Aries was rough, think about Uranus and Taurus. That's like being shook from your sleeping bed. You don't necessarily see it coming. And with Taurus, there is also the question of sustainability in a situation. And so if you're honestly looking at these, what's rising up, is what you're in now sustainable? Within how you're feeling and where the energy is now moving forward. And if it's not, like you said, we're having to have those, kind of tougher conversations or tougher decisions that need to be made because really there's no other way to kind of free ourselves from the influence.
I have actually a funny story that happened to me at UAC.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it was just that, Uranus just entered Taurus. It actually is in my 6th house as well, opposing my Pluto, opposing my Saturn. And I had a reading organized at UAC with one of the astrologers there. I took opportunity, great. I'm on the other side of the pond. I'm in US. I can actually meet with that person face to face. And half an hour before I was about to meet that astrologer and dive deep into my my chart, my past, my karma, I lost the key to my room, my ID, and my credit card.
Oh my God!
I could not find it in my room. A lovely lady who was there on my floor let me in. I looked everywhere. I couldn't find anything. So on that kind of mythological level, if you will, I literally lost my home, my money, and my identity.
Yeah.
Which was incredible. Yes, I found everything. Reception called me from downstairs half an hour later, just saying that someone handed over all my documents. So that kind of had a good ending. But it gave me that flavor of what Uranus can have in store for me, which will be complete, rejiggle, complete, an unexpected change of what I value as a material thing, as a money, what my personality might be, and how I might ID myself in the future, in the next 7 years, and what my home will look like. So I had that kind of taste of what Uranus in Taurus might be. I was like, okay, changes on every level. My home, my identity, and my money, my possessions, my values, if you will. So that was really, really interesting.
That's so funny. And well, I mean, to add a little personal stuff in, because if you're thinking about if the fact that Monika and I both are Scorpio risings, and we have actually our degrees very close to each other. And during the time of UAC is around the time that Jupiter was moving over our ascendant as well. And so here this growth is coming in. It's like, oh, okay, well, who are you now? Like, as you're trying to, and I love those moments because it has us stop and think. And if you're like Monika and I, where we kind of think of on these more archetypal type of symbolism of life, that not normal people, I don't want to use it like that, but normally people would be like, oh man, I lost my stuff, blah, blah, blah. And then we're like, oh, this is a sign from the universe that's saying, question this, and you realize where it's going. And it's like, it's almost like you got a solid key of just self-awareness in that moment before even going to see the person that you were looking for answers from, or insight from.
Yes, but it's also this kind of unstable energy because it's Uranus. You don't know when will you hit you. You don't know how will it hit you, and you don't know what will happen. And one thing that I don't know who I was listening to, but what I loved about the description of Uranus in Taurus was it will be transformation, but what you will be at the end of that 7-year cycle in Taurus, it's not who you are at the beginning. It's kind of like the caterpillar into the butterfly. They're completely different. What happens in that cocoon when that change happens, it's complete disintegration of a caterpillar and complete rebuilding of something else, something that, looks different, feeds on different things, act differently. And someone was describing Uranus in Taurus as that kind of transformation, that what you are at the beginning of this transit, of the 7-year transit, is not what you will be at the end.
Yeah.
And I thought it was interesting.
Well, and I felt that same way for the Aries transit too. I mean, we can kind of look at these as like certain areas of our life as Uranus moves through these signs, and it does take that 7-year period to kind of feel and then metamorphose within that energy. And so here we are starting again. And so it's very important to realize that as we have these tense configurations happen, that we're at just the beginning of the sign, just the beginning of the energy that is going to transpire through this long period of time. So that's what also makes it pretty dynamic, because if we are getting kind of hits of awareness at the beginning of something, this is when things are going to shift more. And that's why I almost think that the unexpected could certainly happen this week with Mars squaring Uranus on a mundane level. But I don't think we're necessarily going to be 100% shocked by it, just because we've already had the first pass that was kind of initiating things in our life that we know deep down kind of need to be cut out or redirected in some way, or even revisited, because we are in Mars retrograde. So going back to something that we used to do, or we're passionate about, and all that, and kind of renovating it for the future in a way, could be up for review as well. So there's many ways that this could play out, and we still have one more square to happen. On September 18th is when Mars will be direct at that point. So I think we'll get an extra added piece of, bonus into it then as well. But we also have, so we have these two meeting, but we also have the Sun squaring Jupiter that is, approaching this whole week. It doesn't happen until next Monday. But I consider this week a very powerful one for growth, basically, on maybe even just subtle levels. And obviously we've been through it because we're in eclipse season. And so, at what level, every week I'm like, oh, it's growth again, more growth. What does that mean? So, I mean, let's just talk about kind of uncertain territory, because I think that a lot of us are in that right now. And if the theme is rising to meet the road, sometimes we have to rise and have, a certain level of faith in the uncertain in order to kind of follow that. So, I mean, do you have any tips or any type of, anything to add to how to navigate that energy?
I do, but actually before I go there, I love the topic of this conversation, the rise to meet the road, because it is, anyone who ever been on any adventure or any traveled in any way, that you can have everything planned, every bus, every train, every flight booked, and exactly, and then something unexpected happens, and you have to adjust and you have to adapt, and it throws you off that course that you go. And one of the quotes that I recently read, which I shared with you earlier on, was a quote from Sharon Blackie from Woman Rose Rooted. Fantastic book. I recommend that. And the quote goes, "We know there is a journey we should be undertaking. We cannot rest. We cannot sleep. Something in us knows that there is somewhere we should be going. And in the end, whether or not we think we can, we go because we must. We go on a wing and a prayer, because to stay is to die." And I think this energy is very much like that. We have to go on the journey, and no matter what you want from the journey, you always change, because you meet other people, because you meet other countries, because you meet yourself in different aspects, in different situations that normally in your safe environment you wouldn't meet. You are challenged on the road, and that's how we change, and that's how we grow. Because you know, sitting comfortably on your sofa in your home, in your environment, surrounded by, you know, all those comforting things, you might think that in a situation like this or the other, you will act in a certain way. But unless you're faced with that, you can't say for certain. And then you're on the road, on that journey, and you're faced with the situation and you act differently. And, you know, you think to yourself, oh my God, I never thought I would say that, or I never thought I would act this way. And this is what really, you know, growth is. We are faced with unexpected situation. We are faced, you know, faced with unexpected people, unexpected events, and we have to learn from them. We have to, first of all, we have to face them, and then we have to reflect whether or not that was what I would like to do in the next situation, whether or not I acted correctly or not, and how I would like to be if that situation arises again. So I love the whole idea of the journey and rising to meet the journey, because it takes a lot to go into the unknown, and every journey, every travel is unknown. And then when things happen, you see people, they're either getting stressed, or they're blaming their partner for missed train, or, you know, they're basically getting organized and trying to rebook that. And you can see how people act under pressure in those situations that are coming out of the blue. And I had that actually on my way back from San Diego. where our trains got cancelled, and, you know, you could see how people react in that queue. Is great, you know, when you travel, it's amazing how you observe people. We had our train cancelled. There were delays. There was another couple that traveled with us. They actually missed their flight because of that. And you can see how people react, you know, when they getting frustrated, and they either getting that on their partner, or they're actually trying to pull together as a team and trying to do things together. And yeah, it really, really pushes you to face who you are and how you act. And it's not only sitting on a sofa like, yeah, that's how I imagine I would act. This is it. This is the serious one. And this is Uranus in Taurus, bringing that unexpected into your home, into, you know, the material, the how to say that, into something that is palatable. Like, there is no escaping from that. There is this lightning flash, and you have to deal with it.
Well, which is interesting, you know, I love the poem. I find that that's so perfect for this energy of this week, and just in general that we are dealing with now. But it's interesting that you know, because it is about a process. All types of journey and growth is about the process. And a lot of us, speaking as an earth moon myself, and if we're thinking about Uranus and Taurus, you know, earth likes to control. It likes to know what's going on in the situation, and kind of, and so here we, you know, when you're facing those situations, like, you know, the train is canceled. I need to get home. You know, my life at that moment is seemingly out of control, right? And if we scramble to do whatever we can to kind of put it back into that linear line that we would like it to go in. And so I think that right now it's kind of a lot of that, you know, those trains are getting canceled in a more, you know, proverbial sense. And we might have to scramble to get back into the linear line. But in the process of doing so, we learn a lot about ourselves, because I think you're right. When you're faced with those situations, that's how we grow, because until we are kind of put into those sort of tests in a way, you know, it's a test of our character. It's a test of our strength or courage in a situation, you know, from anywhere from like missing a train to having to deal with a major life change that comes about. So I love those points, really.
Thank you. I was actually asked about some tips for this current period, and actually the way I feel the energy, I would say anything that gets you into your body, because Mars retrograde, especially in Aquarius, can be a lot of repressed anger, and that can manifest as depression. That can also, your body can somatize, you know, certain emotions, and that come up as a symptom of an illness. So one thing that I absolutely love is yoga. Go and get your Bikram yoga, your hot yoga, sweat that Mars, sweat that anger out, or get into the yoga that is not, there are obviously various types, not the one that is all about breathing maybe, but the one that actually really gets you in connection with your body. When you really have to go into the pose and feel your muscles and feel your joints and feel how your body reacts and feel. Same with mindfulness. I would suggest any exercise that again connects you with your body, that Uranus in Taurus. Not the exercise that helps you get detached, because there might be a little bit more dissociation from the body, and we don't want that. We want to bring it down. The way I feel the energy of Uranus in Taurus is very much we're bringing that electrical energy through our bodies and through the body of the earth. We have to ground that. But it can be extremely anxious. I mean, one way I feel that in my body is literally I feel that kind of current in my nervous system under my skin. And it's incredibly uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So going into the mindfulness meditation, but anything that puts you in touch with your body, mindful eating, mindful talking, mindful yoga, anything that kind of gives you the sense of where is my body. One of the best exercise maybe is the body scan, the 45 minutes body scan, when you take your consciousness from your feet all the way up to your head, and you check on every part of your body, how does it feel. It's a great way of actually noticing any dis-ease, anything that doesn't feel at ease in your body, and noticing and reflecting.
I love the body scan. I will say I attest to the body scan. I do it almost daily. And I'm a big fan of the old app Insight Timer. That has a lot of different, I've touted it a few times on the podcast, but it has a lot of different meditations on it. But there are several body scans, particularly by this Scottish guy. I can't remember his name right now, but if you find it, oh my God, he's a pleasure to listen to. And it's so effective. I mean, even to do it for 10 minutes, because there's even shorter ones. Well, if you don't have the time, can get you there. So I love that suggestion, Monika.
Journaling, again, Uranus in Taurus, getting out of your mind into the paper, that's great. And I think with the whole uncertain energy, journaling at this moment in time will help us in a future reflect back and see whatever happens, or whatever symptoms come up. It might help us with Mercury now going retrograde. There might be a little bit we're trying to do too quick or think too quick. So actually putting it down on paper, it might help get out of our heads and again have something tangible. And again, with Mars in Aquarius, self-care and kindness, just to kind of balance that Martian energy. It can, like I said, Mars retrograde can very much manifest as depression, that kind of repressed anger or repressed inability to be assertive. So be kind to yourself, take time, 5 minutes to practice self-care, but really take care of your body, of your emotions, of your mind. Just time for yourself. I think that would be a great time to help you grow and actually see,
Well, and especially if you don't normally do these types of things, because that's the thing here too, is, we're talking about Uranus and Taurus, and these are just new things that are coming to us. So if you're not inclined to sit down and journal or kind of get more into your body, or, try these different methods out, because chances are, especially since we have so many planets retrograde right now, a lot of the energy might be a little on the nil side, we're more internal in many ways. And so getting all that out onto paper, like you were saying, so it's out of our head, because Mars in any air sign, speaking as a person with Mars and Gemini, it can get pretty, it's like a tornado that goes through, and you're like, at the end of it, you're like, I don't even know what I thought at the end, so getting it down on paper can also help you get in touch with your thoughts during this Mercury retrograde, because then you're like, you come back and then reassess, or even I was doing some kind of like channel writing, you know, just freehand writing where you just write whatever comes into your mind for a short period of time. And that can be very beneficial to get those messages out, or even to focus on things like you were saying, because Mars retrograde, especially in Aquarius, and activating those intellectual faculties, might have our mind like turning on us a little bit on that repression. So how can we draw it out? Because sometimes it's not always conscious, and so that's maybe a method to help get there too, to open yourself up. But
it would definitely help with any anxiety that comes with that unexpected events. I mean, there's so much happening in the outside world, and so much happening inside of us, things that, you know, do arise and we don't expect, and that can give rise to anxiety. What do I do about it? I have not experienced that before, or I don't know how to act on it. So taking that 5-10 minutes to do yoga, to get in touch with your body, to have that self-care, or to do journaling, can help you get that distance from the event and what's actually happening, and that can help with the anxiety as well.
because, you know, anxiety for the most part is uncertainty, right? Because why would we be anxious other than the fact that we don't know something?
Yeah.
And that can also be very much a factor in air signs, because they want to know, they want to understand what is going on. And if there is that uncertainty there, that's when the anxiety comes in. I mean, even for me last night, Monica, when I was watching the eclipse, I had to watch it on timeanddate.com because it was completely cloudy here. I mean, I couldn't see the eclipse anyways, but I didn't even get to see the moon last night. It was frustrating. Everybody was contacting me going, "Did you see the moon?" I'm like, "No." But I felt wired up. It was weird. I went from like kind of low energy to pacing my house in this kind of like anxious, nervous type of energy. And so, yeah, it's real, folks.
I didn't go to sleep until 3 o'clock in the morning.
Oh, wow.
And again, frustrating thing about UK, we had this heat wave, blue skies. I mean, this doesn't happen in UK, you know, it's always cloudy. So over the last few weeks, we had a heat wave, blue skies, beautiful clear sky at night. I could see moon. And yesterday, out of all days and all nights, we had thunderstorm and completely overcast sky, so I could not see the moon from my window either. So I'm like, out of all the nights and all the days, now you're doing it to me?
Of course.
So, yeah. But yeah, it was very, very weird energy last night.
It was. I was like pumped up. I was supposed to go somewhere, and then I decided not to because I just had a feeling, you know, because there's some intense energy out there right now with this Mars happening, and so I decided to stay in. And then, but part of me was like, maybe I should have went because I'm just burning off this energy, you know, wearing a hole in my floor right now, going back and forth. But then out of nowhere, the energy just dropped, and I was asleep. So. Okay. It was just it was an interesting dynamic. But I love. And I think because I'm really a Uranian personality. I was born with Uranus exactly conjunct my ascendant, trine my sun, sextile my moon. You know, it's very integral into my chart. And so I think personally that I feed off a lot of this type of electric, uncertain, exciting type of energy. So I'm not bothered by it per se, but so I love talking about it because, you know, it's good to get perspective because like if you're a very, you know, grounded person, a more kind of like a Taurus type of energy, because all our Taurus people, as Uranus is going to be moving over those points for the next 7 years, you're going to be shaken out of that comfort zone, and we'll have to adapt a little bit of more of like my excitement for, you know, change and what can happen. So that is key to note before we go here that, if you do have planets, and I said this before, you know, because it's all happening in these early degrees of fixed signs. So if you are a Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, or Aquarius, especially in like maybe 0 to, you know, 8 degrees, somewhere in there, you are feeling this time is so significant right now. So don't discredit it. Roll with it. Like, roll with that process. If you miss the train, it's okay, because another one will be on the way, right?
Absolutely. And you don't know who will you sit next to on
Yes.
that train.
That's a perfect point. That's a perfect point, because we don't know. And especially in the sign of Aquarius as we go forward, because, you know, Mars is about to move back into Capricorn where it will station, which is interesting because it's going to station near that, right on where, pretty close, within a degree of where Mars originally made a square to Uranus to begin with. So we are going to be revisiting this, you know, breaking out of the shell energy that is coming over the next couple weeks and through August, really. So it's always a reminder too, is if you feel like you got to move right now, because sometimes, you know, Mars retrograde getting in your head, you know, you can be like, well, I'm not doing enough, or what's going on, and it's okay. We're not meant to be. This is a full period of review, right, Monica? We get like a month to
Yes, we do.
which is valuable. So I look at it as a blessing to some extent that that all this is happening in a time where we can really step back and integrate it for the future.
I mean, one of the lessons that I got from one of my spiritual teachers was, every evening I give thanks for the blessings, known and unknown. And that for me is it's part of my spiritual practice, because there are blessings in disguise. You know, how many times we've been through breakup of relationship and we loved that person so much, couldn't see the life without them, and suddenly it opened up us to even better relationship. Or we got made redundant from the job that we loved and suddenly opened us up to maybe the passion that turned into our job, that now we're even happier that we got made redundant. And sometimes when some things happen, when unexpected things happen, we might think, okay, this is the end. You know, I've never meet another person like that. I'll never get a great job like this. And yet that is coming as a blessing in disguise. So that energy kind of feels a little bit like that. There are breakings and there are releasing of things from the past, and sometimes you have to make a decisive decision, but this will, in my opinion, this will lead to other things if we want stuck into that, if we want stuck in this kind of victim mode. Things happen to me, why is it always happening to me? But when we have that open attitude, okay, things broken, where is that open window? Where is another open door? You know, where is the chimney that I can climb on if I have to? You know, where is another way for me out? And that way out might be a beautiful adventure.
I love that. And I think that's a good way for us to leave the conversation, because really you have to remain open to what lies ahead. And remember, you know, that's where faith comes in. No matter what, you know, religion or spirituality you subscribe to, just the very essence of faith is saying that, you know, changes come into our lives to lead us to something better down the road. And that's why we're going to rise to the road and meet it halfway, right, Monica?
Yes.
All right. Well, so tell us where people can find you, you know, what you're doing, your website and all that.
So the website is www.yagacoaching.com. It's still changing and growing. You can also find me on Facebook and Instagram as Yaga Coaching. Yaga spelled as Y-A-G-A. It's not yoga, it's not misspelling yoga, it's actually from Baba Yaga, the Slavic folklore wise woman, which is really close to my heart. But that maybe is a conversation.
I wrote a song about Baba Yaga once. I'll sing it to you after the show.
That is incredible. I mean, that might be a conversation for another meeting.
There we go.
Yes, so I am online. And at this moment, I'm doing the astrological consultation and mainly coaching based on astrological charts. But I am also planning some mindfulness workshops around the London area. So if you're in London, please do get in touch.
Yes, and all those links that she just shared, I will share on my blog post as well, and within the recording so that you're able to reach out and connect with Monika.
Thank you.
And yes, so where can you find me? Well, you can find me at energeticprinciples.com. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram at Energetic Principles, and I do daily astro alerts there, and other fun stuff to look at throughout the week. And I also do personal consultations if you're looking to go deeper within your own chart. I do something called Astro Meets Tarot, and we do just that. We connect with astrology and the tarot at the same time, and that can be done locally or via Zoom on the web around the world. And as always, you know, I do have that tarot subscription on Patreon. So if you would like to come check that out and see what that's all about, we got a nice little group brewing, and it would be great if you want to join us. You can do so at patreon.com/energeticprinciples. And last but not least, if you like what you hear today, you know, share it with a friend, spread the good word, you know, don't keep it to yourself. And if you feel so inclined to leave a nice review on iTunes, that will help me get out a little further into that atmosphere. So, all right. Well, Monika, thank you so much again for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
I hope we meet again.
We will.
We can talk about all the changes that have happened since then.
Yes, that would be interesting.
Yes, because we can guarantee it to some extent.
Yes.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in. Until next time, may the stars be with you.